We take something like 20,000 breaths every single day. But have you ever stopped to wonder what we're actually breathing in? Today, in this explainer, we're going to dive into that invisible world of particles and gases that fill our air. And trust me, some of the culprits in this story are going to surprise you. It seems like such a basic question, right? But the answer, well, it's way more complicated than you might think. So let's get into it. What is really in the air we're breathing in right this second? Okay, so to really get what's in the air, we first need a way to measure it, to see the invisible. And that all starts with figuring out the difference between what's clean and what's polluted. So first things first, let's get on the same page. Air pollution isn't just one thing. It's really a mix of any harmful substance. We're talking tiny particles, invisible gases, that gets into the air around us and messes it up. And to keep track of all this, scientists came up with a pretty handy tool called the Air Quality Index, or AQI. The easiest way to think about it is like a weather report, but for the air itself. What's great about the AQI is that it uses this really simple color-coded system. It's super intuitive. Green means you're good to go. But when you start seeing those colors shift to orange, red, and especially purple, well, that's a clear warning that the air quality is getting worse and might actually be a risk to your health. When I say air pollution, what pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably certain images, certain sources that we see and hear about all the time. And yep, here they are, the usual suspects. The truth is, a huge chunk of the air pollution we deal with comes from our modern way of life. It's the exhaust from our cars, the emissions from factories, and the stuff coming out of power plants. All of these are just pumping pollutants straight into the atmosphere that we all have to share. Right, but here's where it gets really interesting. What if I told you that everything we just talked about is only half the story? That some of the biggest polluters out there aren't even man-made at all? It turns out nature itself has its own ways of polluting the air. And sometimes it happens on a scale that can actually dwarf our own industrial output. It's kind of wild. I mean, just look at this. A volcanic eruption can blast these incredible plumes of fine ash particles miles up into the atmosphere. And this isn't just some harmless dust. These are tiny, sharp bits of rock and glass that can get deep into your lungs, block out the sun, and literally bring global air travel to a screeching halt. And then you've got this, massive dust storms. In really dry parts of the world, powerful winds can just scoop up these gigantic clouds of soil and sand. Sometimes they're so big they can travel across entire oceans, creating hazy skies and making it hard to breathe thousands of miles away from where they started. And the list of nature's pollutants just keeps going. We're talking about the pollen that gives so many of us allergies every spring, the thick, choking smoke from naturally sparked wildfires, and even powerful greenhouse gases like methane that are just bubbling up out of swamps. But maybe the most surprising natural polluter is one you can't see, smell, or taste: radon. It's a radioactive gas that's released from the normal, natural decay of uranium that's in the soil pretty much everywhere. Being radioactive means it releases energy that can damage our lung cells, and it can quietly seep up from the ground and get trapped inside our homes, completely undetected unless you test for it. So whether a pollutant comes from a factory smokestack or a volcano, what's the actual cost of breathing it in? Why does any of this really matter? 21,000. Just let that number sink in for a second. According to the EPA, that is the estimated number of people in the U.S. who die every single year from lung cancer caused by radon alone. One single, natural, invisible pollutant. And radon is just one small piece of this giant puzzle. The broader impact of air pollution is kind of like fighting a two-front war. On one side, it's attacking our health, causing everything from a little cough to serious diseases like asthma, heart disease, and cancer. And on the other side, it's attacking our planet, damaging plants, polluting water, harming animals, and changing our climate. Now, obviously, we can't stop a volcano from erupting, but the story of human-caused pollution, that is a story we absolutely have the power to change. This is where we come into the picture. I know this can feel like a huge, overwhelming problem, but the good news is our actions, all added together, can make a massive difference. For example, when we use less energy, that puts less strain on power plants. When we choose to walk or bike, that's zero emissions for that trip. Supporting cleaner technologies pushes whole industries to do better. And even managing our waste responsibly helps. It all makes a real, tangible difference to the air we breathe. Ultimately, it just comes down to this. This isn't someone else's problem to go solve. We all share this one thin, fragile layer of atmosphere. So protecting it, that's a responsibility that connects every single one of us. So that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. Since this invisible ocean of air connects every one of us, what role are you going to play in its future? How will you help protect it?